Logan Paul finally responded, and it's not how I thought he was gonna respond. Him being a social media star, I thought he was gonna address the audience and address the allegations, but he's taking it to court. So I thought that was all weird, but nonetheless, I want to go ahead and just break down some of the segments that I thought were pretty interesting. First off, we're going to start with this clip.
You see, Coffeezilla tried to work with law enforcement in the past, but his work was described as not anchored to truth and often speculative. He is a lopsided journalist with an agenda, and he's nothing more than the Keemstar of crypto and finance.
So when I heard him say this, I thought it was pretty interesting. So I looked into it just a little bit to see if I could find anything on Coffeezilla working with any law enforcement, and the closest thing that I actually found was this article by Vice Motherboard, talking about these cryptocurrency vigilantes. So if you read down towards the conclusion, you can find here from Coffeezilla, he also ended up chiming in as well. It reads, when asked whether any authorities have ever asked for help in their investigations, Coffeezilla laughed and said he shouldn't say anything about that. It's very ambiguous, so you can't really make out anything from it. I mean, the speculation is totally in your hands. You decide what to make out of that. That's the best I could find. And thanks to Moist Critical for this little piece of evidence, he ended up DMing Coffeezilla and asking if he's ever attempted to work with law enforcement, and Coffeezilla ended up responding with, he also does this really weird slander move where he says that I used to work with law enforcement or try to. That literally never happened. He says my work was described as not anchored in truth or something like that. I don't know. Literally my only interaction with law enforcement during Coffeezilla was when I was asked to hand over evidence I had found that later led to an arrest of this guy named Jay Mazzini. And I definitely never tried to work with law enforcement. I really don't know where he got that idea that law enforcement thinks that Coffeezilla's work is not anchored in truth. He provides no source, nowhere where I can see where this claim was made. If you can't really source your material, bro, then how are we supposed to believe you?
Coffee, you interviewed the developer who stole the game code, fled to Switzerland, and held it hostage for $1 million. Well, his name is Zach Kelling. Surely, as the internet detective that you proclaim to be, you would know that he spent time in prison for multiple felonies, one for aggravated robbery, armed robbery at a liquor store, and the other for, surprise, obstructing the legal process. I can see why you kept him anonymous.
Who will be calling Z here.
The reason why I find this very odd is because of the way it's structured. I feel like Logan Paul is attempting to assassinate Coffeezilla's character by showcasing to everybody that he ended up giving a platform to somebody who was a felon. This is kind of an ad hominem attack at the same time, because what he's doing here is that he's attempting to show everybody that this guy cannot be trusted because he's a felon. However, just because he's a felon doesn't mean that he didn't participate in whatever activities you guys were enacting. That doesn't make the facts any less true that perhaps you potentially scammed. Him being a felon has little to do with what was going on behind the scenes when it came to the whole crypto zoo situation.
And I know what you're thinking. What type of idiot would work with an unsavory individual like Zach Kelling? I guess that's what I get for trusting the team that I relied on to vet and manage Eddie's hiring process, who has turned out to be a professional con man that I have since learned fooled billionaires, the Mormon Church, the owner of the New York Yankees, and now me.
What he's saying here, I feel like, is that it's my fault for trusting the team. It's not my fault for getting Eddie Ibanez onto the team. I think that everybody's at fault because he is the one who oversees everything. I mean, he did hire everybody, and no one can really truly rely on a team. I think you should still, as a boss, should still go in to see what's up. Is everything running smoothly? What kind of people are being hired? But of course, that does require a lot of resources, a lot of money. I don't really know what it's like to manage a team like that, so I'm not really going to comment too much. I'm just a little kind of uneasy, uncomfortable with the way he kind of phrased that entire sentence, almost making it seem like he's blaming his team. I don't know. I feel like everybody deserves some fault in that, even Logan as well.
And surely you knew Emilio, the gentleman who supposedly let his child invest in a cryptocurrency, was allegedly responsible for 2 rug pulls before you interviewed him. So either you missed that or you knew it and failed to let the public know. Why? Because it was a clear sign that he was also untrustworthy.
I feel like this was a missed opportunity for Logan Paul. I feel like if he was to make this argument, he could have at least leveled with Coffeezilla. He could have said something along the lines of, well, look, you ended up platforming Emilio, who is a potential scammer. So just the same way as we couldn't detect Eddie Ibanez is kind of the same way you couldn't detect Emilio. They know how to hide better, but of course, that is still not an excuse for me to not properly vet the workers on my team. I feel like if he was to say something along those lines, I feel like he could potentially look a lot better in the public's eye.
And surely a real internet detective would not break criminal and civil laws in trying to get information, right? So why have you allowed the illegal recording of Jeff's phone call without his permission? And then more like an internet criminal, post it online.
And it was interesting. It was like, this is wild.
Now,
I would just stay away from anything that has to do with law, just because I don't want to spread misinformation, and I highly encourage you guys as well. Just stay away from this one. Don't look into it. Don't try to spread misinformation. I see a couple of people already talking about how it's legal in Texas and it's illegal in California. I really don't know, and honestly, I don't think any YouTuber should be talking about that because we're not exactly experienced when it comes to laws. I think that should just be left to the courts.
and maybe we could have talked about this if you had reached out to me personally, not my manager Jeff, who is not me, Steven, but the first time you did was on Christmas Eve after you released your series so you could rely on false statements and unreliable people used recklessly. The subject line was third request for comment. Yeah, not quite. This will be my 3rd time reaching out to you and your team. The first 2 times were through your manager, Jeff. The first 2 times were through your manager, Jeff. Okay, so the last time on Christmas Eve, after the fact, was to me. You have a funny way of twisting things. And I also noticed you left out that part on Twitter. Why hide that? Trust me, CryptoZoo is coming. I will make damn sure of
Logan,
it.
first off, Coffeezilla doesn't have to approach you directly. I think it's ideal to have your manager handle that. After all, he did come to your manager, and it's more professional for somebody to go up to your manager, right? That's why you have a manager, because you want your manager to handle all of these proposals that are incoming. You can't handle them because you're obviously busy filming, recording. You don't want to be bothered, so you allow the manager to do that for you. I also want to show you guys this message because I thought this message was pretty interesting. So if you take a look here, it says, this will be my 3rd time reaching out to you and your team. The first 2 times were through your manager, Jeff. Now, if you continue reading, it says here, now though, thanks to you joining my Patreon, I've gotten the chance to reach out to you directly. What does that mean? That means that potentially he was blocked. I don't know why Logan Paul didn't touch up on that. Maybe he should have asked Coffeezilla, like, what do you mean directly? Like, what was the problem? Like, did I block you on accident, or what was the problem? I think that getting a clarification on that would have probably been a lot better than just trying to spin a narrative to make Coffeezilla look bad. Other than that, I really got nothing else to say, and hopefully you guys learned something today.